Next, the Firefighters Union has described a developer's plan to slightly reduce the height of a proposed block of flats in South London, bringing it below the threshold for extra safety measures, as shocking. The building in Penge would have needed a second staircase if it was above 18 metres. The developers say the plans comply fully with the latest building regulations and fire safety standards. Vince Rogers has this report.
The Blenheim shopping centre in Penge has seen better days, but it's now been bought by the Hadley Property Group, who want to knock it down in a joint venture with Clarion Housing and build Blenheim Square, featuring 230 new homes. They applied for planning permission for 6 blocks of varying heights, but London Fire Brigade are highly critical of this one, Block A. Block A was originally submitted at 18.74 metres. Technically, the height of a building is measured to the floor of the top storey. But then, following the Grenfell inquiry, new regulations were brought in that any new residential block over 18 metres must have a second staircase in case of fire. Then the developers submitted a final design of 17.7 metres, which dropped the height of the block below the 18 metre threshold by 30 centimetres, which is this much. As part of the planning process, London Fire Brigade said, "We do not see this as deferring to the spirit of the guidance used and doesn't ethically justify this decision." One industry expert says these are strong words, but the design is compliant.
If we look at the wording of the law, I don't see that there's anything wrong with what the developer has put forward in terms of an approach. The regulations kick in at 18 metres. This building is below 18 metres.
But the Fire Brigades Union agree with the London Fire Brigade themselves.
The building is essentially the same as another building that would be whatever 30 centimetres taller, and therefore the risks are actually almost identical to a building that wouldn't meet the requirements of the regulations, and that's pretty shocking to find out.
If the fire brigade is saying this building isn't justifiable ethically, then clearly there's something wrong, and that concerns me.
A spokesperson for the Hadley Property Group and Clarion Housing Group said all the buildings in the scheme comply fully with the latest building regulations and fire safety standards. As a matter of best practice, Hadley Clarion took the step of redesigning the scheme twice during the planning process to meet evolving legislation when the threshold was amended to 18 metres, requiring 2 staircases. This was done despite transitional arrangements that could have allowed us to proceed with the original plans. These costly and time-consuming decisions were made to prioritise safety and ensure compliance with the highest standards. Planning permission has been granted by Bromley Council and the Mayor of London. Construction is expected to start in the autumn. Vince Rogers, BBC London.
Well, let's have a quick chat to our political editor, Tim Donovan, who's in Westminster tonight. Good evening, Tim. Are we going to see a lot more of this now, do you think?
A little too early to say, I think. I mean, this 18-metre rule was introduced after consultation with fire chiefs and other experts and in line with guidance in places like Hong Kong, but it was always likely to have consequences. And here we see this extra requirement, extra condition, extra cost on developers at a time when it is proving very difficult and very expensive and problematic to build homes in the capital anyway. As Vince just said, key things here, I think. The local council have looked at the revised plans. The Mayor of London has looked at the revised plans in detail and they've been happy. And the second, perhaps more crucial point is the developers themselves didn't have, apparently, to do this because the new rules governing 18-metre requirement for a second staircase only come into place in September 2026. So I think we need to see a little bit more evidence to see whether there's a trend, but certainly we can see the extra costs and restrictions that are going into calculations made by developers.
OK, Tim, many thanks for that. Our political editor, Tim Donovan.